Time for Popok Live, the After Dark edition. Joe Biden will go up on Mount Rushmore as the best lame duck president we've ever had. I think he's going to be up there as one of the best presidents we've ever had. But certainly what Joe Biden has done in the last 3 weeks is a miracle. It is historic. It is jaw-dropping. The billions of dollars that he's sent out to empty the tank to try to Trump-proof democracy, the federal judges he's appointed, the ones that he's withdrawn in order to not give Donald Trump the upper hand, the use of his clemency, pardon, and commutation power all shows you what Joe Biden is and will go down in history as, and I cover it all on Popok Live. Take a listen. Biden, the greatest lame duck president of all time. Discuss. Okay, what am I talking about? Just look at the things that Joe Biden has done in the last 4 weeks. I'm breathless. They're on fumes for a guy that took unjustified attacks for him being a sleepy Joe, incompetent Joe, mentally incapacitated, physically incapacitated, napping Joe. Look what his administration is accomplishing with him at the helm. Let's go over it. Let's start with things that are, I'll do it in the order of things in the news. The use of the pardon and clemency power. Look at this is a great way to stick it to Donald Trump. First of all, a week or so ago, the most clemencies, commutation of sentences ever in the history of America, 1,400, all in one fell swoop, mainly nonviolent crime to get these people out of prison. Their conviction stays on their record, but they get to re-enter society because Joe Biden showed mercy in the exercise of his clemency powers. 2 weeks ago, we had 37 or so pardons, meaning the conviction comes off the books, as does the sentence, including for his son, Hunter Biden. The long national nightmare of the Hunter Biden laptop affair and junk pics is over. Thank you. Along with others who were also pardoned. But he's not done. I called for that a couple of weeks ago on a hot take on Legal AF, the YouTube channel, for Joe Biden to use his powers of mercy and his pardon powers, which can't be attacked, can't be checked, can't be balanced, to take people off of death row, not let them out of jail. I don't want that to be any misunderstanding. I'm not looking to have them re-enter society, but I do want to take away the death-killing machine of the U.S. government and from a dignity and morality standpoint, and have them serve life imprisonment without possibility of parole. We can debate another time the efficacy, the morality of the death penalty being exercised by a democracy. We can do that another time. But for right now, 37 out of 40 people at Terre Haute, Indiana. Thank you for the pronunciation guide. Those on my Legal AF channel. Terre Haute, Indiana is the home of the federal penitentiary where almost all of these death penalty people sit, convicts sit. 37 of them are not going anywhere, but they're also not going to be dying because they've been given a commutation of their sentence, conversion of their sentence, clemency through the mercy of Joe Biden. Stay in jail. There's 3 that aren't going anywhere and are still in line for the death penalty. So as soon as Donald Trump comes in, who has a lust for the death penalty, these 3 will be put to death pretty quickly. One is, and when I tell you who the 3 are, you'll understand that this is also a reflection of who we are as a people. Joe Biden is, and the dignity of Joe Biden, and the, what's the word I'm looking for? I'll leave it at dignity till I can think of another word from the thesaurus. The 3 are, Dylan Roof, who killed 9 Black parishioners in the Mother Emanuel Church. The killer, the mass murderer of more Jews on domestic soil than ever in our history at what we call the Tree of Life synagogue. It was a combination of synagogues in Pittsburgh. 11 Jews worshiping during the High Holy Days lost their life. That guy's not going anywhere. And the surviving brother of the 2 brothers who devised and implemented the Boston Marathon bombing. He's not going anywhere. And as I've said at the top of the hot take, this particular segment, Donald Trump has a lust for execution. He just announced not on the campaign trail, like going into office, that he's going to ask his Department of Justice, likely headed by Pam Bondi, his FBI director, who could be headed by Kash Patel, to try to find more ways to impose the federal death penalty, not less, for violent crime. Now, we'll have to see what the United States Supreme Court says about that. They've already ruled that the right wing of the Supreme Court has already ruled on a number of occasions that the death penalty is not cruel and unusual punishment under the Eighth Amendment, and therefore can be used in America. But it's always been tied to very heinous, treacherous, depraved acts that can't be squared with our morals and our values, and they've said that's okay. If it's symmetrical, if it's proportional to the crime. Donald Trump wants to expand it to other quote-unquote violent crime. I'm not sure, as depraved as a certain type of violent crime may be, I'm not sure that's going to be enough for this United States Supreme Court to say that that's fair and proportional to the crime for it to be not cruel and unusual punishment. That will be something we will follow on the United States Supreme Court as Donald Trump tries to expand it. As soon as he got back into office in 2016, he had 16 federal inmates put to death, Donald Trump. Whereas Joe Biden, showing his morals and values of what we voted for, he created in 2021 a federal ban, a moratorium at least, on execution of prisoners. And that's been going on until this moment. Now, the three that I just described, Mother Emanuel Church, Tree of Life Synagogue, and Boston Marathon bomber, will be joined by at least two more. One, the mass murderer, mass shooter in Buffalo 2 or 3 years ago, who took out minority and black people in a supermarket in Buffalo. That's a Biden administration prosecution under the death penalty and under civil rights violations, and he's going to join these other two. So there'll be at least these are the three. There'll be four. And then for another day, we'll talk about whether Luigi Mangione were somehow to get the death penalty, he would join, and that will be prosecuted by the incoming, started by the Biden U.S. attorney because the crime was committed during the Biden administration, or the purported crime. But the Luigi Mangione thing, that's going to continue beyond the inauguration. It'll be taken over by Jay Clayton, who I know from the Securities and Exchange Commission, used to be in that office. He will now head that office as the head prosecutor. I'm sure he will continue, and he will seek the death penalty. We'll continue to follow it here on Legal AF and the Midas Touch Network. We have a unique perspective, not because I talked to her about the case, but because my podcast partner on Wednesday, a dear friend of mine, is Karen Friedman Ignifilo here on the Midas Touch Network and on Legal AF, and she is representing with her husband, along with her husband, Mark Ignifilo, Luigi Mangione. So we've got, I'm still staying here right now, though. Remember, Joe Biden, the Mount Rushmore of lame duck presidents. He also, let's move to judges. He did two things when it relates to judges in the last week or two. He got confirmed one more judge. I think it was 245 judges, 244. I'm in the ballpark. Federal judges at every level, appellate and trial level, were appointed and now confirmed under Joe Biden. And it's not just the sheer quantity, it's the quality of the type of judges that now reshape the face, literally, of the judiciary. I think there's 60 black judges now, federal judges, lifetime appointments, Article 3 judges, against 12 for Donald Trump. 60% of Joe Biden's confirmed judges are women. 24% were women for Donald Trump. The prototypical confirmed judge for Donald Trump, a white male in his 50s. That for Joe Biden, a Hispanic, Asian, or black, let's say black female in her 50s. Shows you the difference. And their backgrounds. The prototypical judge for Donald Trump came from corporate America, working for a company, in-house counsel, or for a MAGA right-wing organization, or worked for what they call a white shoe law firm, came from Harvard or Yale. Joe Biden, all accomplished people, all people with great credentials, but many of them came from civil rights litigation, being public defenders, doing God's work, depending on people who can't afford, who are indigent and can't afford for themselves. So these people are coming from the right places. They've lived the life, and that will help them dispense justice in our system of justice. Now you might say, well, if Joe Biden's so pro-federal judiciary, why did he veto just a day or so ago the Judges Act that would have added 65 new judges to alleviate docket congestion all around the country? Federal courts are overwhelmed, mainly because they have two roles. We don't have a criminal federal court in this country and a civil federal court. Federal judges sit in their jurisdiction and cover both federal and civil. And federal always generally take priority to civil cases because there's this right of speedy trial under our Constitution, due process rights. That puts civil cases way back. I've been involved in civil cases in federal court where it took us 4, 5, 6, 8 to 10 years to get to trial. Goes faster for criminal cases. 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, maybe 2 years. And so there's backlog in populous states like California, New York, and Illinois, and Florida. They need judges. So while Joe Biden was still in office, there was a bipartisan push to add 65 new judges. And the compromise, the horse trade in Congress, was that it would be the next 3 judges, starting with Joe Biden. Everybody would get like 22 judges or whatever the math is. But even though the Senate passed it, the deliberative body, the mature body passed it, they sent it off in August before the election. They sent it off to the House, and MAGA House said, let's wait to see if it's Trump. They wouldn't vote on it while Biden was still in office, giving him 25. They didn't want to give him 25. Trump's up their ass not to do it, and so they don't do it. And Joe Biden said, what was once bipartisan has now been made ruinously partisan. These are my words. Have now been made very, very partisan. And I'm not going to vote for it now because you waited until after Donald Trump got in to give him an instant, like all of the 65 additional federal clerk judgeships. And I'm not doing that. So he vetoed it. He just vetoed it. He warned them that he was going to veto it, and he vetoed it. Now, what does that mean? How secure is it, Popok? Oh, it's pretty airtight secure. Because in order to override that veto and do this again, whether Trump's in or not, or right now, there has to be a 2/3 vote of the House and the Senate in order to override a presidential veto. 2/3 vote, House and Senate. Is that happening? No. It would be 290 votes in the House. They only have 215 Republicans, and it would have to be 67, I think, in the Senate. I'll do my math later. Not happening. Dead. No more additional judges for Donald Trump. So that means that if they're going to try to give more judges to Donald Trump, they're going to have to waste valuable time. I mean, what they're trying to do here is not make it easy on Donald Trump and make him waste time and waste scarce resources, scarce time resources, scarce administrative focus, scarce legislative focus on things. Make him do everything, everywhere, all at the same time. That will tie him up. It'll sort of throw sand in the gears, making them, if you're going to get more judges, you're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way, try it all over again in legislation and waste time. And everything that's being considered is one less thing that can be considered that particular day in the House and the Senate. Great move by lame duck Joe Biden. We talked about death penalty. We talked about judges. How about debt relief? Loan forgiveness, for another 55,000 people, to the tune of $4 billion, mainly frontline workers who now have had their student loans and debt relief. Now, there's other reporting about other debt relief that the programs are being sundowned by Joe Biden. That's mainly because they can't get them up and running. Judges have shot them down. It's a waste of time to give people debt relief when it's going to be shot down. So that's sort of off the table. And similarly, legislation that Joe Biden has not been able to get passed and won't have time to get passed, like more protection for the transgender community and other things, he's pulling them back and pulling them out of committee on Capitol Hill because he doesn't want MAGA and the 119th to take over that legislation and have a fast track to make ridiculous, terrible, un-American changes to it. So he's killing these legislation and pulling it back, and he's giving orders to do that. Remember, Joe Biden spent the bulk of his career, over 40 years, on Capitol Hill. He knows how to run legislation better than anybody, and including Donald Trump, who's not yet into power. So we have that. And then lastly, we've got hundreds of billions of dollars that in the last 3 weeks alone, beyond this hot take, that Joe Biden and his team, his administration and cabinet members are pushing out the door and getting agreements signed to fund money that Congress has already funded for some of Joe Biden's signature policy initiatives. So 10 more billion is being approved for infrastructure and being sent, not just approved, sent out the door. 39 billion for semiconductor and chip manufacturing. That agreements are being rushed to be signed right now to get that $40 billion out the door, along with the Science Act. Another $369 billion in clean energy subsidies are being signed as I speak to get that money out the door, and $7 billion over to Ukraine. So when you add all that together, you're looking at another $500 billion. It's a going out of business sale. And it's obvious. Joe Biden is rightly emptying the tank of everything he can possibly do. And he's having his cabinet members look at their rosters and making sure that everybody gets raises and everybody gets bonuses and everybody gets elevated in title. So when inevitably they try to hollow out these departments, it makes it infinitesimally, no, that's not the right word. It makes it infinitely harder. There's the word. So I'm going to, sorry, it's that holiday season. Welcome back. That's a new show I do over on the Midas Touch Network every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Popok Live. I take questions. I give answers. And I'm Michael Popok, and that's the way that show works. I thank you for joining us here on the Legal AF YouTube channel. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button. Help us continue to build this channel. Independent media is more important than ever before. And until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.